Hello everybody, Sani here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about CRISPR farming and food. And I wanna make a bold prediction for which company can enter in this space with the latest news with farming around the world. I want to talk about all this. It'll be an interesting video. It'll be one of those videos that will most likely get your brain's juice going. But before we do that, guys, you guys know the algorithms. You guys know how YouTube works. Do like this video, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't subscribed and if you haven't notification bell, hit that notification bell. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and really does help the channel. Okay, so CRISPR farming and food. Okay, CRISPR farming and food. This article was actually published in innovativegenomics.org. We've actually covered this website in the past. We dive deep into CRISPR, some of the articles they do, some of the research they've done, some of the publications are just amazing. It's great to have this reference. But obviously there are other references, right? It's not just this website, it's not just this institute. There are YouTube videos, there's Reddit, there's Twitter, there's other communities. But this year, I think it's really nice to look at some of these what I call layman terms articles, or you can call them ELI 5 articles. Explain me like I'm 5 articles type of articles. So it's really a nice one. Like for example, here they're talking about crops and farming. Okay, farming, right? And really what they talk about is the key takeaways. Farmings have traditionally used selective breeding to make crops and farm animals they want. The CRISPR they can add and take away traits faster and more accurately to help to feed a growing, changing world, right? So, I mean, I won't be reading here the article, word by word, but just know, as you see here on the screen here, this is what an actual banana looks like, right? This is one of your bananas. This is a wild banana. When you imagine of a banana, even if you put the banana emoji, that's not how a banana looks like, right? Your banana is probably yellow, it's probably a lot bigger and doesn't have many seeds like this inside. And that's because selective breeding happened over generations, right? Another example is tomato, right? If you think tomato is actually a big red tomato, that's not a real tomato that was in our crops a long time ago, right? This is through editing, through obviously manual human editing, which means selective breeding, right? And that's what this article is talking about, right? Selective breeding, right? And this is something you've probably learned in Bio 101, or I think if in your post-secondary schools or even college, you sort of learn about genotypes, genes. You sort of learn about recessive traits, dominant traits. And basically the idea is that, the strongest survives, right? The strongest, I think the quote from Darwin was, the strongest is the fittest, like the something along those lines. And basically what it means is that, the strongest genome, right, in whatever living being it is, that's what will be passed down through generations, right? And for example, here they're giving simple examples, but if you're able to sort of, selectively breed, right, which means you plant your seeds only of those specific, vegetables or specific fruits or specific vegetation that you want to grow more of, that's what we call selective breeding, right? The dominant traits take over, recessive traits, they reduce, and over time, this takes time, right? This is a lot of time. This is not just one season. This is not just 1-2 years. This takes years and years, generations, centuries, right? For you to have a actual selective breeding through a specific selective breeding for a specific line of fruit, for example, you can definitely get the best out of, for example, your tomato plants, right? That's the example they're using here. I wish they gave more information on the tomato, because the tomato one is really nice one. I think a lot of people will be very surprised about the real color and the real structure, how a real tomato looks like, right? So how does this fare up against CRISPR, right? Because this is what we're ultimately trying to boil this video down to, right? This is what our channel is all about. We talk about CRISPR, we talk about the technology, we talk about how biotech is improving, genomics. We're having this new era, and CRISPR is one of the tools that's being used by many of these public companies, whether that's CRBU Bioscience, CRISPR Therapeutics, Beam Therapeutics, and TLA, and so on, right? So The reason why we would want to have CRISPR over what we call a manual editing, which is basically selective breeding, is that it's much quicker and you can add new traits, right? It's not just picking from the natural variants, right? So you have a basket of variations that you can pick off using the technology, and it makes complete sense, right? It's not you're comparing one high technology that's really really been discovered in the past 10 years and really developed in the recent years, compared to something that's been used for centuries and centuries, and that has no sense of you don't need actual technology. All you need is just basic knowledge, right? Do you want your tomatoes to be big red? Yes or not? Yes. Okay, so get those big red tomatoes and plant more of those, right? It's very simple as that. But CRISPR, obviously, there's a lab required. There's tools. There's just professionals. There's healthcare professionals. There's all sorts of entities involved here. But it is definitely much quicker to edit these crops, and it can add more traits. You can have different variations, and again, easier to grow bigger and faster, and taste better potentially. What does this mean, right? This means that you can literally eliminate world hunger with CRISPR. You can eliminate world hunger with CRISPR. You can literally do that because, again, we've tried, and world hunger, by the way, has been decreasing over the years, right? Let's give props to humanity. Like, it's not like CRISPR, it come here and now we're finally doing something about world hunger. No, like over the years, any graph you'll take a look at, world hunger percentage by population around the world has been decreasing, right? It has been decreasing. Humans have done a great efforts to decrease that, and that's through incentives. That's through incentives to farmers. That's to the breaks to farmers, to institutions, especially capitalism in action, and sort of building these liaisons with less developed nations, with less developed communities, and sort of have that impact in those regions, right? So let's not forget about that as we introduce gene editing in farming, right? We've done a great progress, but gene editing in CRISPR is the creme of the creme. It's the creme that ends it all, right? It's the one that it's like the in Mortal Kombat, in the video game, there's what we call finish him, right? And this is what CRISPR is. This is a crazy analogy I'm using here, but this is what CRISPR is, right? It puts everything in perspective, and it basically gives one last blow, and it eliminates the problem, right? Again, obviously, I'm making it sound very simple. You need big labs, big research, big R&D expenses before to even get there. But that's what the goal is with CRISPR, right? We're not just trying to make food taste a little bit better, right? This is not about making food taste better, right? Although it would be nice to have better tomatoes or better bananas or better fruits and so on, the idea is to grow faster and bigger, right? Eliminate world hunger, make food less expensive. Think about that, guys. Think about your own lives as a middle-class family, higher-class family, some of you, or even lower household incomes, right? Make food less expensive, and have them more available to people. And basically, at the end of the day, food is fuel. You have to have certain nutrients to survive. And if we can eliminate world hunger, make food less expensive, less costly, and make it available to the masses, I think, CRISPR has definitely an impact in farming, right? And then we haven't even talked about, the nutrition aspect. Obviously, you can increase the nutrition. Just think about increasing specific vitamins for specific fruit lines or vegetation or plants, And again, there are other components to this. There's material sciences, there's animals, there's livestock. We haven't even talked about. I'm just specifically talking about crops, specifically talking about vegetation, plants, fruits, and so on, right? And the last point I'll make here in this article is all about pesticides, right? So again, the current status quo for farmers for around the world. Obviously, there are some organic plants, there are some organic institutions that promote this in the free pesticide zones, right, for their agriculture. But these agriculture, they take a lot, for many places around the world, it is pollutant. There are a lot of pollutants, and that is specifically with pesticides. Pesticides, the thing with pesticides, yes, it may protect your plant over time, and then maybe you can sell more of it, obviously. But pesticides kill specific insects, and insects are part of the food nature cycle. And if you eliminate specific animals or specific insects, for example, in the food cycle, you're depriving other animals from that food, and then those animals will be depriving other animals to that food. So this is all a chain, guys. Nature is a chain, right? I'm not trying to go all hippie here, but it's all a chain, right? So if you can eliminate the use of pesticides, then genome editing, CRISPR, has more than just making food better, making them grow faster and bigger. It's also basically eliminating world climate change, right? Because this is huge, right? Pesticides is affecting climate change. Make no mistake, agriculture is a huge pollutant. Agriculture is a huge pollutant. It is definitely a necessary one for now because of technology tools we've had in the recent decade, generations, and we have to feed the world. But there's so much waste out there. And I strongly believe if you can introduce a technology that can eliminate pesticides, eliminate world hunger through several, there's layers to this, right? So just keep that in mind, right? And they're talking about the human population growing since 1800s, right? And obviously, how do you feed a big, hot, hungry world? You have to grow bigger. You have to grow faster. You have to be more nutritious. You have to have editable. You're not gonna get there naturally. You will not get there naturally. If you could get there naturally, we would have solved it, right? If we could get there naturally, we would have solved world hunger. We have not solved world hunger. We have reduced world hunger through the means we've had in the recent generations. But for us to address the remaining population, which we're talking about millions and millions of people, including in US and in Canada, there are people living under $2 a day. And trust me, over $2 a day, guys, no matter what city you're in, you're not getting all that nutritious food, right? And again, this is a huge thing. Maybe I'm going to go on a tangent here, but not having the right nutritious food, what happens is your health is affected, right? And obviously, maybe at that specific time, you'll be fine. But in 10, 20, 15 years down the line, you'll start having, the impacts of that bad food you ate over time or the missing nutrition, right? You'll have diseases, right? And you'll have specific diseases, maybe even develop cancers. And that requires a lot of healthcare, and that is taxpayers' money. Now, obviously, you have these companies in CRISPR that are addressing these diseases, addressing those cancers. But it's not, that's why we say there'll be many winners in this space. It's not just one company, for example, Beam Therapeutics, that are just going to come here and then develop the base editors and then solve everything. It doesn't work like that, right? There is an issue of scalability. There's an issue of resources. There's an issue of regions. There's an issue of regulations. There's an issue of different entities, competitions. And even, we haven't talked about this in this channel, but there's other companies not involved in CRISPR, obviously, or in biotech specific, like genome editing and so on. But for example, Impossible Burgers, Beyond Meat, these companies are working on things that can improve long-term sustainability about foods, about what we do about world hunger, what we do about climate change. So you definitely need all of those, right? You definitely need all of those. And again, if you can making sure edited plants and animals are healthy and safe to eat, this is why you need tests. This is why you need research labs. This is why it will take time to go through tests and so on. And this is the beauty of it, right? This is why the FDA goes through the approval process. This is why you have companies, in this space. This is a long-term play, right? We keep repeating this, but I just really wanted to set the stage here. And I know I've gone well over 10 minutes here to just explain to you about why farming and food is directly linked to CRISPR and how CRISPR can improve farming, improve crops, improve vegetation and plants, and to address certain outcomes that can eliminate, right? I'm sure all of our viewers here would want world hunger to end. I'm sure all of our viewers would want Americans and Canadians, for example, that are living under $2 a day to have belly fulls. I'm sure all of us want our foods to be less costly, and that's exactly what CRISPR introduces, right? So I want to move this here to now talk a little bit more concretely about a specific company and what's going on, right? So this is a tweet that happened a few days ago, and I was given that by one of our viewers. And it's fantastic news that the rules of England will change to allow genome editing of crops with no additional regulatory hurdles. Very important, guys. New rules been implemented in England specifically to allow genome editing on crops without specific regulation hurdles, right? Strong pro-science signal from UK government. Hopefully the EU will learn from this example. Now, obviously, UK is no longer with the EU. It's Brexit, right? But this is a great signal here from England, what we've seen here. I'd be in favor of labeling it if it's not too difficult to do, if only to remove the argument from the antics that genome editing foods are being smuggled into our dinner plates or such tropes. Right, so great news here, very promising. And this is what I wanted to end this video with, this thought, right? So England has now allowed genome editing for their crop. Are they the only one to do so? No, there are other regions around the world that have been doing so. I know this for a fact, I've been reading that. But a big country like England allowing that, and this has gone under the news, is completely amazing. I think that's a great thing to see. Genome editing crops is the future. From what we just presented to you guys, the first 10 minutes of this video, to now countries, nations around the world, first world nations developing that theory that, you know what, we don't have to go through the whole natural process. We can introduce genome editing. Yes, it's scary. Yes, we need more data. Yes, we need more research. But if we can decrease costs, if we can decrease world hunger and decrease climate change and have an impact around the world, be leaders, and sort of use this technology on hand we have to sort of improve and advance humanity, then let's go forward for that. And that's what we see from this tweet. Great news, great pickup here from Mark Linus here. And I just love that type of news here. And this is where I'm going to tie the following, and the last point here is the CRISPR IP landscape, right? We've covered this in very previous videos, like I think it was like back in March or April of this year. I covered the landscape patents, right? So all these companies own specific patents. But the company that I want to make a reference to, and this is what I'll end this video with, and I'll let you guys predict your own, is what company, besides maybe private companies and maybe local companies in England, could partner up with the nation and implement agriculture technologies through CRISPR. And for me, that is CRBU Biosciences. CRBU Biosciences own the agriculture, major crops, they own livestock. It's not just human therapeutics. They own patents for mice, for reagents, for research, drug screening, and validation, and they already have a partnership with Genus and the Jackson Laboratory, and these are non-human therapeutics labs, tests, and so on. And that's great partnerships already there as a use case and testimonials that they can present to nations that want to explore further this idea of genome editing their crops. Now, will it be specifically CRISPR? It could be any other technology that developed. Maybe it could be even in the CRISPR, could not just be specific, could be specifically base editors, could be specifically prime editors. I'm not showing that it has to be Chardonnay's rDNA technology from CRBU Biosciences. But looking at the IP landscape, guys, I mean, you know, your patents are limited, right? You don't have unlimited patents. And those patents, like we saw, CRBU Biosciences own over 200 patents. And many are on the way to being patentized. So, food for thought. Curious to see what you guys think. Hopefully you guys appreciate this video. Again, farming, CRISPR, foods, all related. And then you can tie that and you make bold predictions about what's going on around the world. For example, England allowing for the first time ever genome editing for their crops. And then that basically opens the door for many of these companies. And trust me, these companies are looking into space. Agriculture is no joke, right? There's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of partnerships to be made. They are looking at this space. Make no mistakes. We talk a lot about human therapeutics. We talk a lot about eradicating diseases. And although this is a big portion of it, that's how you get FDA approval, for example, for human therapeutics. But make no mistakes, the companies that can enter the agriculture space will do so. There are a lot of money, a lot of things involved. I would love to see CRBU Biosciences, in my opinion, get into this space because one, they hold patents for it, just like we can see here, but also because they do have existing partnerships to validate their space in agriculture and in livestock and so on. So we'll see what happens. Like this video if you found value from it. Subscribe if you haven't. Hopefully you guys are having a beautiful Sunday here. It's a little bit rainy here today, so we'll see what we do here. Lots of things going on here on my end. Going to be moving to Toronto next week, so that's going to be a lot of work over this week, but I'll try to make as many videos as I can. Again, we try to cover all these technologies And hopefully you guys appreciated this video. As long as you guys keep watching, we'll keep making them, right? So thank you so much for watching, and we will see each other's in the next video. Have a great Sunday, guys, and a great week. Thank you.